from the blackest corners of your mind, they call, pulling you deep into shadow, twisting your senses, keeping you from sleep. It's time to face your darkest fears. This is Tales to Terrify. Good evening, children of the night, and welcome. Do you feel that change in the air? That chill that won't leave your spine? The unsettling feeling of being watched from darkened shadows? You'd be forgiven for thinking it's the approach of the Halloween season. In truth, what you're feeling is the eldritch pull of our flash fiction contest. As I mentioned last week, we've got a special edition of our Flash contest this fall, gathering tales of Halloween horrors. New origins for the traditions and legends we know and love, and maybe even some we haven't been infected with yet. This contest is a quick one, though. The portal will only remain open for one more week. So channel those inner demons and conjure us some fresh Halloween legends. The winner will be published on the show and earn a cool $50 to help celebrate the season. We'll also publish up to 3 runners-up on our special Halloween episode. So hurry over to talestoterrify.com/flashcontest to submit your masterpiece before time runs out. This week we have 2 tales for you, about a woman battling her curiosity at the sounds from the attic, and a girl with an intimate connection to the apocalypse. Our first story for the evening comes from Mark H. Harris. Mark H. Harris is the Stoker Award-nominated author of the book The Black Guy Dies First, Black Horror Cinema, From Fodder to Oscar, and has devoted an unhealthy portion of his life to the black presence within the horror genre for his website, blackhorrormovies.com. Children of the night, join me for Mark H. Harris's Don't Look, a Tales to Terrify original.
The first thump jolted her awake. One bump was explainable. Maybe a moving box had tipped over. The sound came from the attic, after all, where she'd tossed most of her hastily snatched belongings over the past week. Or it could have been those crows her neighbor had mentioned. She was new to living in the country, and Miss Eunice, she insisted on being called Miss Eunice, had greeted her with a warning that the birds liked to roost at night along the spine of this long-neglected farmhouse. Was that the sound of a murder settling on the roof? A living shadow hanging overhead? She hated how solitude sharpened every noise, every shape that pierced the emptiness of the spare, bony home. Then came the second thump. She bolted upright and wheezed a curse when the headboard clapped the plaster wall behind her. That was no crow. It was too heavy to be a bird, too self-restrained to be dislodged baggage. Her baggage was out of control. Trying to gauge the distance between the sounds, her eyes scanned the length of the moonlit bedroom ceiling. A foot apart? 2? She held her breath, as if exhaling would betray her location to whoever it was. As she sat in bed, time hung still, fattening like a drip that never falls. She perked her ears, but only the chirping of crickets filtered through the night air. The stillness allowed for the possibility that this was all an overreaction, that what she'd heard was innocent enough, that he hadn't found her. A third thump, this one louder, erased any thought of a coincidence. These were footsteps, walking in a straight line, directly above her. She lunged toward the nightstand and slapped at the base of her touch lamp. The light threw crooked shadows onto the walls like an assault of blackened daggers. She tried to be logical. He was locked up, in maximum security, no less. And even if he'd gotten out, the cops would let her know, right? Unless they didn't know where she was. She'd just moved and was living under a new name. Maybe someone had lost track. You want to believe that the police are competent, but they're human. And maybe whoever was on duty when he escaped was a rookie on the night shift, a real third-string shitshow who didn't know to alert the people on his most likely to kill list. Or maybe it wasn't an accident at all. All it would take was one rogue cop who thought she'd gotten away with murder. They could have set him free and pointed him in the right direction. To this unassuming house, in this unassuming town, in the middle of God's green dearth. She'd seen the news reports, read the online commentary. No one believed she was clean. They said she didn't show enough remorse, that she knew too many details, that she was too grotesque to be innocent. She was obese, so she must have helped him subdue the girls, maybe even ate the ones whose bodies were never found. She'd professed ignorance of his crimes, and on a technical level that was true. She never witnessed them. She didn't want to know. Her blindness was selective, like the distant gaze beyond a beggar, the avoidance of unpleasantness happening to people not your own. Whenever he'd retreat to the basement, clutching his fish-splitting knife, trailed by the meaty stench of the leaking trunk he dragged behind, he'd tell her, "Don't look." And she never did. That's all she knew. She didn't question that the trunk was far too large for fish, and she never brought up the bloody knuckles, nor the backyard fires lit in even the warmest of months. It's not that she feared him so much as she feared being without him. She never thought he'd hurt her. Until now. Thump. Miss Eunice had said something about raccoons being heavy enough to damage a roof. Maybe that was what she was hearing. Thump. She picked up her cell and thumbed a search for raccoon footsteps. Thump. Sure enough, there was an article about how human they sound. Thump. It seemed as if the ceiling buckled with each step, an almost imperceptible sag. This wasn't a raccoon on the roof. It was too heavy, too deliberate. It had a plan. It wanted her to hear. It wanted her scared. It wanted her to know that it was inside the house, that it was in the attic, that it was coming for her. She dialed 911, and when the operator answered, let out a breathy, "Hello?" The footsteps stopped. The wood above her groaned, the weight shifting. A knee, perhaps? An ear being placed to the attic floor? "What's your emergency?" the operator asked. She hesitated, eyeing the ceiling like it could open up and swallow her at any moment. "Someone's in my attic," she blurted. "Send the police!" Thump, 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 thump. The footsteps broke into a sprint. Instantly, she knew where they were headed, to the attic ladder. Her bare feet hit the hardwood floor. Shoes were an afterthought. Just one step outside the bedroom door, she sensed the peripheral motion of the attic hatch flying open, propelled downward by the stomp of a steel-toed boot. The ladder unfurled, its segments unleashing a flurry of staccato clacks. The bottom rung slammed into the hallway floor with the stony thud of a body being dropped into a forbidden basement. Within seconds, she'd made it down the stairs to the front door, flung it open, then paused, exhaled, told herself to go, to run. But she had to see. She peered over her shoulder, which quivered with fear, or excitement, or love. At the top of the steps, a dark shape that had leapt from the attic crouched in silence. Slowly it rose, joints a grinding mill of clicks and pops, until it stood erect, shoulders thrown back like an eagle about to take flight. As she strained futilely for recognition, it launched itself down the stairs toward her. She spun blindly through the doorway and slammed her teeth into the grill of a steel security gate. In the panic, she'd forgotten about the safety feature that was supposed to give her peace of mind and not turn this house into a prison of her own making. Her knees buckled, and she fell onto her back, the impact punching the breath from her body. In and out of consciousness, her senses softened into a stew. She felt her soul trying to claw its way out, and was comforted with the thought that she had held on to it for this long. From her haze, the shrouded figure regained its shape, a living shadow, now hanging directly over her head. It bent down toward her, fish splitter cocked in its right hand. She could hear the wetness of its lips parting as it prepared to speak. "Don't look," it croaked. She turned her head and closed her eyes. It was all she knew.
That was Mark H. Harris's Don't Look, as read by Jennifer March. Jennifer has a passion for literature. She created a local radio show called Not Your Mother's Storytime, which has become a podcast with thousands of listeners who appreciate classic short stories. She views storytelling as an essential and ancient part of society and civilization. She believes every culture has its stories and its tellers, and she is honored to be one of them. Thank you, Jennifer. Our second tale tonight comes from Avra Margariti. Avra Margariti is a queer author and Pushcart-nominated poet with a fondness for the dark and the darling. Avra's work haunts publications such as Vastarian, Asimov's, Strange Horizons, F&SF, The Deadlands, Podcastle, and Reckoning. Avra lives and studies in Athens, Greece. You can find Avra on Twitter at Avra Margariti. Listen with me, children of the night, to Avra Margariti's Dawn to Dust, a Tales to Terrify original.
Ashen blood rains over Athens by the time I surface from my memory palace, panting like I just emerged from the deepest ocean trenches instead of my own head. In the rising dawn light, each tarnished speck of dust alternates with a crimson coppery dollop. I clutch my torso in laughter as the people run to escape the destruction I have wrought. She's in shock, a voice behind me says, the only fixed point in a trampling, shouting sea. Hands grab me, half carrying me away from the spreading havoc. A girlish face swims into my incandescent vision. It's okay, she says so earnestly it burns. My friends and I know a safe space. And I want to tell those frantic, kind eyes, don't you know? I pressed the button. It was me who caused this. But I give myself over to the undertow through the city's sticky streets. First comes the prelude of blood and ash. Then one last dawn tomorrow before the darkness of a sun gone cold. There's no running from this, I tell my new friend, her hands slippery in mine. All around us, neighbor abandons neighbor, like I always knew they would. Yet this stubborn stranger holds on. You came too late for me, but when I try to speak the words, I only choke on dust. I remember the ammonia stench of urine in my high school's girls' bathroom. Then the iron tang of blood as my pocket knife sliced at my own wrists. The shrill laughter of my classmates, my tormentors, who knew it was their own blood I wished I could have shed instead. I remember waking up in a hospital room, the sewn skin of my wrists tight and itchy. There was a tinnitus ring in my ears and a vertiginous call coming from inside my skull. I closed my eyes against the astringent, antiseptic whiteness that masked death and illness and found myself in the dark vastness of my memory palace. I had wished myself unborn, so a new wormhole womb opened for me to crawl through the cosmos, and there, inside my ailing head, only a round red button stood on a plinth, and above it, one word: self-destruct. It was a button I wouldn't press for 3 more years, but when I did, it was a button that would destroy the world. It's hard to tell whether I've been passed out or disassociating. I jolt upright and the world swims in and out of focus through the trepanning pain in my head. The migraine splits my vision and brings a hint of vomit to my mouth. Easy. That same voice from earlier speaks again. My savior, my brain bitterly provides. Take your time. There's no rush. She doesn't know just how wrong she is, doesn't know about the button's timer in my head with its 24-hour countdown. A way to reverse this. I can't tell how much time has passed with everything entrenched in dim lighting and curved gray walls. The space smells both musty wet and industrial smoky. Who are you? I croaked. My name's Terrify, she says. And yours? Elpida, I'm about to say, then bite my tongue bloody. What does it matter? Neither of us is going to survive long enough. Our acquaintance is born out of nothing more than grim necessity. I shake my head, and Terrify smiles. She looks my age, more or less 20. Despite her easy smiles, her face looks gaunt, malnourished, as if the apocalypse has been going on for months, not hours. She hands me a wet wipe to clean the blood and ash caking my face into a tragedy mask. My fingers twitch across the blanket, but I can't bring myself to accept her offering. Terrify begins cleaning my face for me. I scrunch my mouth in distaste, which only makes her laugh. It's strange. From her, laughter doesn't sound like a taunt. I have a button inside my head, I say, because why should I hold back here at the end of the world? It was me who pressed it and caused the apocalypse. Me who turned the clouds to ash and the sea to blood. Me who will eclipse the sun forever, less than a day from now. Like a self-destruct button? Garifallia asks conversationally. She doesn't believe me. Probably thinks I'm a confused stray she's collected, which is why I can be honest with her. Has a failsafe, too. I could reverse Doomsday within 24 hours of pressing it, but I'm still deciding if this world is worth saving. The doorway remained open after that first time. I heeded its call in the hospital through the pain and humiliation of having failed to end my life. I could revisit my memory palace with a skeleton key, a submergence that always caused me nauseating migraines. Yet there was a relief, too, knowing I had a way out. A revenge on my bullies and the world. Why you? Garifallia asks, with fingers stroking meticulously down my cheeks, neck, exposed arms. Her touch doesn't linger, but it's not harsh either. No one has been this gentle with me since the hospital. Are you the chosen one, then? I scoff. No, of course not. I'm not the Antichrist either. Garifallia has finished cleaning me, but she stays still over our blanket, waiting for me to continue. Everyone has a button inside them, I say, but not everyone is pushed into revealing it, and not everyone is pushed into... I laugh again, enough to strain my ribs, into pushing it. Garifallia hums, a compassion that feels like a gut stab. And were you pushed? I think about the knife in my hand, every barbed insult in the mouths of my bullies, every daggered trick and shove, and about the button in my head, even now, burning, buzzing its comic dirge. Before I can reply, footsteps echo from what sounds like a cavernous tunnel. Garifallia, are you there? Oh! She claps her hands together. That's Pavlos, my little brother. Are you ready to meet the rest of the Warren? Like a rabbit warren? I ask, focusing on more voices carried our way. Yeah, Garifallia says, smiling. You'll see. I let Garifallia lead me down a gutted-out tunnel toward the sound of her name. Watch your step, she advises, as we crawl along a small ledge jutting out above the span of subway tracks, I realize. We move from the hidden alcove to an abandoned subway wagon Garifallia introduces as the rec room. I piece this story together. We're in the abandoned Panopistimo station before the newer metro stop was built to accommodate the yearly hordes of tourists under Plato's Academy, now turned red with blood rain. The curious faces of Garifallia's friends peer at me while I take in the futons, electric kettles, and mini power generators spread all around. Canned food and waterlogged books are piled high between wagon seats. The Warren has existed in these tunnels long before I started the apocalypse. You're runaways, I realize, and Garifallia beams like the sun that's soon to die in the sky. We are, and we know how to take care of our own. We're not waiting for the government to help. They never did before. Whatever's going on in the world, we will wait it out right here. She introduces me to 13-year-old Pavlos, her brother who ran from the children's home so they could live together after Garifallia aged out of the system. Purple-haired Angela and their partner Kikos, whose cane covered in worn rainbow stickers suggests they didn't injure their leg during the apocalypse. They aren't limping because of me. Both Angela and Kikos have the same haunted look in their eyes, which only softens when they meet each other's gazes. I watch all members of the Warren gravitate toward Garifalya, sunflowers toward the light-giving source. When they sit down around the portable gas heater like a fireside of old, she pats the pillow on her right for me to sit on. I could have so easily been one of them if I hadn't been a cute kid desperate to please and contort myself into perfectionism, which made me a popular choice as a foster. If my adoptive mother hadn't refused to send me back, even when she became sick, if she hadn't left me her fortune to squander, me who once came from nothing. But in the apocalypse, everyone is nothing, and everything is dust. Garifalya shares her peanut butter sandwich with me as Pavlos and the others gather close. They don't talk about surviving or escaping the apocalypse or what comes after. An unhealthy mechanism of those never sure of the next day, therefore only living in the present. It would explain why Garifalya was undisturbed by my confession earlier, her denial, and her kindness. Over us, the toxic rain corrodes ancient white marble to choking lungfuls of history. The students, the commuters, the businessmen, the shop owners, everyone, I'm told, has taken shelter on the newer underground platforms. Government officials handing out shock blankets and bottled water, waiting for help that isn't coming. But this warren exists parallel and liminal with rules of its own. Why a warren, I ask. Pavlos laughs, though he creaks once burbled before they turn to blood. Angela grabs a battered copy of Watership Down. We borrowed the name from the Book of Runaway Rabbits. I remember this story from my life before the children's home, and perhaps there really is something wrong with me, some curse that has had 3 parents die on me, one by cancer, the others by car accident. Perhaps this is what my classmates and tormentors saw in me. This curse they needed to purge with their cruelty year after year until I snapped. All the world will be your enemy, prince of 1,000 enemies, and when they catch you, they will kill you, I quote. But first, they must catch you, Garifalya finishes with a wink. Good thing we're all very good at running and hiding from those who wish us harm. Pavlos, his gritty face creased as he digs into his canned spaghetti, says, "We lost most of our books to a flood a few days ago before. We like stories around these parts," Kiko says. Their voice is feather soft, and I don't know if it's their vocal cords that are damaged or something more profound. We like escapism, is what my partner means, Angela says, nudging them affectionately. Nothing wrong with that, Garifalya rushes to defend, like she's used to it, keeping the peace, making everyone content. Here we can do anything, be anything. Here they can pretend. Yet, as I look around the warren, I can play pretend too. No outside light reaches here, like perpetual night and winter have already set outside, although there is one last dawn remaining before the sun implodes. I picture it, the red blood snow congealing on ravaged streets, like the whole world spontaneously combusted in a burst of viscera. The dead bodies turning to ashen icicles, the flesh too cold to pierce by desperate, hungry teeth. I'm shaken out of my abject reverie by Pavlos' voice. Garifalya always takes such good care of us, her and Lena. He clasps a hand over his mouth, horrified. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Garifallia looks away with glassy eyes and a pinched expression. Despite the apocalypse, this is the first time I've seen her smile dim. I'll tell you a story, I say, by the pretend fireside at the end of the world. Garifallia slumps in relief. Not the one with the button again. Her eyes twinkle like we have a joke. An inside joke, like we've known each other forever. I recount every story I remember Mom telling me before the car wreck. The orphanage, the adoption, the bullying, the button. Myths of old gods and goblins and gobblers of worlds. Stay with us, Garifallia says after I've finished, and Pavlos echoes her words hanging onto my arm. I think about the button and its fail-safe, how there is still time to reverse the damage done and save the world, if it's worth saving. I could stay here for just a few precious hours more, study how the Warren members treat each other with all pretenses of civility gone, and only survival mattering. Should I shake the world or shatter it is the question I still can't answer, and who better than my saviors to help me decide? In this pocket of forgotten architecture, I feel like we're underwater, stealing a submarine to survive the apocalypse, like we're safe and forever, a feeling I crave and despise in equal measure. The more I am engulfed in this unfamiliar solidarity, the itchier my skin becomes, an invisible eczema spreading all across my body. I leave the hideout with the excuse of getting some emergency supplies from the government officials without the Warren risking discovery. Be careful out in the tunnels, Garifallia says. Electricity is unpredictable. I don't want you falling and getting fried to death. I promise to walk along the ledges, wall to wall, stealth and quick. But the truth is, I only take half the precautions I should. It's hard to shake off the habit of not caring about yourself or what happens to your body. Blood is dripping from the rust-red walls where condensation once spread. It rattles my lungs with wet coughs tinged with metallic aftertaste. There is an unnameable feeling inside me, too, bleeding through my system. I only know that I needed a moment away from Garifallia and her friends. The hair on my nape stands on end. There's something off about the echo of my footsteps, like someone is following me, their steps masquerading themselves among my own. The noise is coming from the tunnel below. Has someone else discovered Garifallia's Warren? Will government officials even care about some lost youths in the midst of the apocalypse? I lean down toward the darkened maw of the tunnel, the subway tracks below sparkling with leftover electricity. Vertigo sizzles through my body like standing at the edge of a tall building. It's an intoxicating feeling, one I've always experienced staring at sharp blades, putting my head under my pillow and pushing, cutting, falling. A gasp escapes me as someone collides with my body, not pushing me down the tracks I'm leaning too far over, but pulling me back into an asphyxiating hug. What the hell? I exhale. She rescued me. Garifallia rescued me again. In my mind, I hear the laughter of my bullies as I slip my wrists in the girls' bathroom, not one of them trying to intervene. How dare you save me! I scream, gripped by an irrational rage. My voice reverberates, monstrous off wet concave walls. I tackle Garifallia to the ground, our positions reversed as my knees pin her down and spittle flies into her face. How dare you! You You're late! All of you are too late! I realize the feeling corrupting my bloodstream is guilt. Even that is dwarfed by my primordial well of anger. I told you, didn't I? I asked Garifallia, who lies placid underneath me with another one of her sun smiles. I could eat the world like a plum in my palm. She runs a grimy finger down the bridge of my nose. It would probably taste bitter, the world. Not really worth the bite. I think about the self-destruct button in my head, and this barbarous, bitter want bursting on my tongue. I roll off her, both of us stretched out on the cold concrete with a constellation of mold and water damage over us. I wasn't trying to die, I say. Not this time. At least, I don't think so. Oh, Garifallia looks subdued. Sorry, I'm used to it, having to take care of everyone. But who saves you? I want to say, but don't. So I ask, who's Lena? Pavlos mentioned her earlier. You and Lena take such good care of us. I listen as she talks about her ex-girlfriend, how they broke up only days before the apocalypse. When Lena asked Garifallia to choose between her brother and their relationship, then, just after I pressed the button, how Garifallia was ambushed by Lena, slurring voice and mad shining eyes, saying, "We need to make a suicide pact, die forever in love in the rubble, be found like the hugging couple of Pompeii by some alien civilization centuries in the future." There's nothing poetic about suicide, I say. I had hoped there might at least have been some poetic justice to it. I did it partly giving in to some age-old infecting call inside me, and partly to take revenge on my classmates. But they didn't care about the knife plunging in my veins. Not one girl intervened at first as I bled out on the white bathroom tiles. They laughed about what a stupid bitch I was, how long a corpse stays warm after death, all the things they could do to me. Yet they called an ambulance eventually, like I wasn't important enough for those girls to even enact their darkest fantasies upon me. Something about Garifallia's story strikes me then, a delayed reaction. She found me in the rain of ash and blood mere minutes after she escaped Lena, and even then, she stopped to save a stranger. She stopped to save me. Let's go back home. Garifallia takes my frozen stiff hand in hers, and despite my better judgment, I let her. Why now? Garifallia's drowsy voice lingers in the dark once her Warren has fallen asleep in the abandoned wagon around us. What? I roll on my futon to face her. You said earlier the button revealed itself at the hospital, but you didn't press it then. This is correct, I reply, cagey yet craving closeness, conversation. I've never had a sleepover. Oh, why wait? What's so different about now? In the distance, through the tunnels where the shelter seekers have gathered, someone weeps. I can't tell if it's a baby or adult. Maybe I wanted the apocalypse to kill me at last, so I wouldn't have to risk opening another volatile doorway inside me if I failed to die by my own hand. Or perhaps it's the same rotten urge that made me want to hurt those girls that bullied me, to traumatize them forever. I wanted people to prove me wrong, I say at last. I wanted them to be kind. Even as the words leave my mouth, I'm not sure they're the whole truth. Maybe it's proof of my own kindness I was after. And are they? Carrillo hums, lilting like a lullaby. Kind? Will you beg? A sick, gleeful part of me wants to ask, will you crawl to your knees before me and ask to be spared? But she's already begun to snore gently. I lie restless on my mattress beside Carrillo in the red-tinged darkness. Come dawn, it will be all over. The sun will rise, only to promptly give out. My fingers feel along the seams of my skull where the button pulsates from within. My lungs devour oxygen in preparation for the dive inside the lacunae of myself when a noise snaps my attention back to the outside world. It's the same set of footsteps as earlier in the tunnels. I know this with the certainty of the runaway and the hunted. I sit up to catch a shadow-clad figure leaning over Carrillo's sleeping form like a nightmarish spook. The figure startles, pivoting to a run back to the main tunnel. I run after them, the act preceding conscious thought. Silent, so as not to alert the warren, I crawl along the ledge, then swerve past the corner to the wider burrow, nearly slipping on the blood puddles leaked from the old metro roof. I use the blood to my advantage, increasing my momentum to fall on the figure before they can disappear in the anonymity of the sleeping shelter seekers. We tussle in the dark until their hood slips to reveal the face of a young woman pinned underneath my body weight. You're Lena, I say. Her snarl confirms my guess. She has a handsome face, with high cheekbones and big eyes that grow sharp with her contempt. I see Carrillo wasted no time finding a replacement for me and spreading lies, too. We're not girlfriends, I want to say, but we are friends. The first real friend I made before or after the end times, but I doubt Lena would understand. What were you doing back there? You're banished from the warren. You know nothing. Those little thieves will not survive without me. They shouldn't have kicked me out. A knife glints in Lena's fist and I laugh. I know my way around knives, wielded against others, but mostly myself. When she first tries to stab me, I don't move away. I lift my arm instead, directing her blade to cut along my already scarred flesh. The self-destructive act surprises her enough for me to gain the upper hand. I let the blood dripping from my wound fall in Lena's eyes, blind her like her arrogance. But first they must catch you, I think, and cackle again. Here in the heart of Armageddon, I raise my bleeding hand and strike Lena's face. Punch, 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 until her teeth are loose and their gums and her face resembles raw meat. Punch at my 1,000 enemies, the girls from school, the drunk drivers who killed my parents, the cureless cancer that took my adoptive mother. Punch this woman like I punched the button to end myself and the world. This is for coming near Carrillo, I say, while Lena wheezes curses but stops fighting. There is a fleck of truth in Lena's vindictive ravings. I don't know everything about Carrillo. She will never be anything but this idealized, innocent figure in my head, because I will not know her long enough for her to disappoint me. I think about salvation, how the word sounds like a salve. I could offer it to the world I ruined the way it ruined me, but I'm not the chosen one or the Antichrist. I am a girl with a button in her head, blood on her hands, and not enough will to forgive and forget, to live and let live. I returned to the warren with aching fists and panting breaths. Pavlo stirs under his star-patterned blanket, and I whisper, "Hush, everything's okay. I'm keeping watch." I lean over Garrifalia. With her smile gone in sleep, she looks older, tired. I kiss her shoulder, whispering, "Why couldn't you have found me sooner?" In the half-light, I do my best to memorize the features of the first real friend I ever made, the last one, too. Elpida, I say to the darkness. My name is Elpida, an unfitting name. Hope. I leave the metro station quietly. First, the lovingly tender warren, then the makeshift shelter of people waiting for help that isn't coming. "You there," a stranger calls at my retreating back. I ignore them and keep marching toward this broken world's surface. As I approach the dark square of near-dawn sky, visible from the subway stairs, I sink inside myself. I swim in my own darkness toward the button that could reverse it all, like the apocalypse never happened. Today, the sun will die after it rises in the sky for the final time, but it won't have to if I stop the countdown. The splitting headache I've been harboring all day disappears. I'm in an echo chamber, myself and the button. I look at it. Then I avert my eyes. I walk away from the button, the way I left behind Garrifalia and her sleeping warren. Resurfacing from my memory palace, I trudge through ash and blood into the damning daybreak.
That was Avra Margariti's Dawn to Dust, as read by Mel Rose. Mel has a knack for bringing scripts to life in a way that feels like chatting with an old friend, the comforting, quirky neighbor next door who always has a story to share. Thank you, Mel. Well, children of the night, the hour is late, and we've run out of tales to tell. For now. Tales to Terrify is made possible by the tremendous generosity of our supporters on Patreon and PayPal. Incredible fans like Lestle Baxter, Amanda Carrillo, Amanda Gottfried, and Orion D. Hegre, whose generous support keeps these lights on and flickering ominously. If you're not a supporter, head over to patreon.com/Tales to Terrify. You'll find all kinds of perks, like ad-free episodes, bonus content, and one-of-a-kind collectibles. Every dollar goes back into this show, and we appreciate your support so much. Want another way to support the show that doesn't cost you a cent? Head over to Podchaser, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts and drop us a 5-star review. You'll not only put an unnaturally wide smile on our faces, but help new listeners discover our terrifying tales, too. You can show your love of the show out in the world with some Tales to Terrify merch. TalesToTerrify.com/merch will take you to our TeePublic store, where we've got a great collection of creepy custom and curated designs. Tales to Terrify is produced by Seth Williams, Meredith Morgenstern, Andrew Gibson, Crystal Hammond, Spencer Disparty, and myself, Drew Sebastini, with original theme by Nebulous Entertainment. Tales to Terrify is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. Join us again next week as we hunt the things that go bump in the night with more Tales to Terrify.